And if you look at the conceptual differences in the WHO guideline different from ICH with respect to the API, if you look into those who are really using this guideline day in, day out, ICH guideline or WHO guideline will really appreciate that the differences have come not in the general discussion, but in the stress testing there is some difference, yes. Selection of batches there is some difference. Container closure system there is no difference. Specifications, yes. Testing frequency remains the same. Storage conditions there is a huge difference. Then stability commitment evaluation there is no difference. Statement and labeling, yes, it's a very important difference that has come in the WHO guidelines. And the ongoing stability study is a new chapter in the WHO guideline. Similarly, for finished pharmaceutical product, you can see that there are essential differences in selection of batches, specifications, storage conditions, statements and labeling, and in-use stability, variations, ongoing stability studies are the new chapters which are missing in the ICH guidelines. Now, first, let us look into the stress testing, API, where the difference comes in. Very important thing which has been added to help the small and medium and large industry even, because same molecule formulation is introduced simultaneously by several manufacturers in large part of the world other than the ICH countries where most of the patents are there. So what happens is, if you look into when available, it is susceptible to provide the relevant data published in the scientific literature to support the identified degradation products and pathways. Mr. Sadhwani has given you the flavor of the importance of the degradation products. So here the issue is, for new drug, any manufacturer has to do this complete study to characterize each and every degradation product. But WHO says that if it is an old molecule and regulatory agency is asking for this information on the degradation products, but if it is already published in the literature, you make a summary, attach the publications and hand over to the regulatory agency and they will approve it. So this leverage and flexibility is provided in the WHO guideline. Yes, when no data are available, stress testing should be performed. So this is the difference between the ICH and WHO with respect to stress testing. And selection of batches, where ICH wants 3 production batches, WHO says for existing active substances that are known to be stable, data from at least 2 primary batches should be provided. So they have again given a relaxation for stable products, stable drugs and products where you have already got a good information and also experience. You can go for 2 primary batches. This saves a lot of effort. At least 1/3 effort is saved by generic industry. Then in finished pharmaceutical product also, the same requirement for API and the finished pharmaceutical product, again it is a requirement that at least 2 primary batches data for stable formulations, APIs, should be provided. Then the specifications. In WHO guideline, it is written over here, in ICH they have not given a list of parameters on which you have to evaluate a stability sample. Here they are given that as a guide to the potential attributes to be tested in the stability studies provided in Appendix 2. So you will find Appendix 2 where example of testing parameters are provided in the WHO guideline which are missing in the ICH. Same is the case with finished pharmaceutical products. And you can see the list is provided on tablets what are the stability parameters. But generally they say appearance, assay and degradation products are to be really found out in each of the formulation. So that is a basic requirement. So they talk of the physical, chemical, biological, and microbiological attributes, preservative content, and functionality tests. Example of testing parameters are given in Appendix 2. So this is given, and total formulation wise, the testing parameters for the stability samples are provided in the WHO guideline. Then storage conditions. Here it is maybe important for the stability chamber manufacturers when they are going to the companies, what are the tolerances limit provided. In the additional in WHO, which is silent, there is a silence in the ICH guidelines. It says the equipment should be capable of controlling the storage conditions within the ranges defined in these guidelines. The storage conditions should be monitored and recorded. Short-term environmental changes due to opening the doors of the storage facility are accepted as unavoidable. The effect of excursions due to equipment failure should be assessed, addressed and reported if judged to affect stability results. Excursions that exceed the defined tolerances of more than 24 hours should be described in the study report and their effects assessed. Now the funny point over here is, I asked all the other members who were from Europe and US, how do you assess first the influence of excursion more than 24 hours on the products? Everybody was silent, but they were adamant to add this requirement into the guideline. Now the issue is, if suppose the chamber has gone out for more than 24 hours and a huge variety of products are there in the stability chamber, how do we assess on each individual product what is the influence on excursion beyond 24 hours? This is an open field. If you ask me the answer, it is very difficult because that lot is a continual lot study. You can't take out the sample to assess the influence of excursion on that sample. Then you will have no sample for further testing. So it's very difficult to do it, this type of study, although the requirement has come, but it is impractical in my sense. Mr. Kapil Bhagam and others are there, they can tell better if they have any better solution to this. But it's very, very difficult for any manufacturer to do this assessment. So, in the API additionally in WHO on the storage conditions, for existing substances that are known to be stable, which is reddened over here, data covering a minimum of 6 months may be submitted. Instead of 1 year data, you can submit 6 months if you have the sufficient data that the drug formulation or the drug is stable. Now, in the storage conditions in API, in the different to ICH, you can find over here 3 long-term storage conditions provided. 2564 to cover zone 1 and 2, 3065 for zone 4A, and 3075 for zone 4B, which WHO has brought in now. Zone 4B is covering Asia and Brazil, and rest of the world falls in 3065. So accordingly, they have put 12 months or 6 months as the minimum time period data which is required. Same storage conditions in API for storage in refrigerator, they are long term is 5 degree plus minus 3 degree, and accelerated they have put all the 3 conditions whichever is the chamber running in the company. Then for finished pharmaceutical products, in WHO they have put an additional paragraph. The long-term testing should cover a minimum of 6 or 12 months at the time of submission and should be continued for a period of time sufficient to cover the proposed shelf life. For a finished pharmaceutical product containing an API that is known, studies accelerated and long-term condition for at least 6 months data covering a minimum of 6 months should be submitted. So they are agreeing on that if your formulation is stable, it is known to be stable, API is known to be stable, you can submit the 6 month data. And over here, they have changed the value of significant criteria, which is earlier it was changed from initial content to API for 5% or more detected by assay or failure to meet the acceptance criteria for potency when using biological or immunological procedures. Now it is saying over here, other values may be applied if justified to contain certain products such as multivitamins, herbal preparations. Now the issue over here is, we have lot of overages added in multivitamins in the developing or the tropical world. This is the leverage where they are open that if you have added overages, higher content than the limited value by pharmacopoeia to keep the stability of the formulation, that flexibility is built into this line. Otherwise it would have been very difficult that if they restrict to 5% criteria and fall in assay value, then it would happen that your all multivitamin formulation would have to be taken out of the shelf and removed from the chemist shops. So this is where the advantage has been provided to the industry in the developing world. Then the modified formulations, for formulation it is the same table as it was in the API, that we have the 3 long-term testing conditions. And in the evaluation part, again the flexibility which was given in the 1996 guideline, people have forgotten when they were making this new guideline that there was such element and paragraph already in the 1996 guideline. So on my insistence, they brought this paragraph back into the new guideline that provisional shelf life of 24 months may be established provided the following conditions are satisfied. The API is known to be stable. Stability studies as outlined above in section 2.1 have been performed and no signal changes have been observed. Supporting data indicate that similar formulation have been assigned shelf life of 24 months or more, and the manufacturer will continue to conduct long-term studies until the proposed shelf life has been covered, and the results obtained will be submitted to the National Medicine Regulatory Agency. So this is again a very important issue. Even people who are manufacturing paracetamol, ciprofloxacin, the drugs are known to be stable, chemically stable. So in those cases, you can get 24